Welcome back. So the Canadian economy has been a little bit of a roller coaster these past few years, and the old rules about what money milestones we should be aiming for is changing too.
And here to help us figure out what we should be working towards at each stage of life in today's economy is our resident money expert, Melissa Leong. Welcome back.
Talking about money.
Yeah. Me too.
Okay, and any 20-year-olds in the audience? I'm just curious. We got one. Here we go. Okay, so for our one person in the audience, let's start with the decade of our 20s. Okay, so what should we be doing if we start to make a little bit of money in our 20s? Not sure if you're there just quite yet. So what should we be doing in this decade?
When I was in my 20s, I was so stressed about money because my goals seemed so far away, and the average Canadian student graduates with $30,000 in student debt after a bachelor's degree. And so, if I could go back if I could just get into a time machine and go back to any decade where I could talk and change my financial future, it would be my 20s. I'd just pop out of the machine. I'd be like, don't worry, your eyebrows grow back. Look how good you look now. And I would say focus on three things. Focus on healthy habits, debt management, investing.
Okay.
So I would say this is the time to set healthy habits. That means budgeting. That means setting goals and then automating your savings for those goals, including, your emergency fund. And then manage your debt well, because if you don't, that will follow you for decades. So make sure that you build your credit score. If you're going to carry credit card debt, try to pay it off before the end of the period. And if you do carry it, always pay. Do not miss a payment. Pay at least the minimum. And then finally, use the biggest wealth superpower that you have on your side, which is time. And so invest in yourself, invest in your learning, invest in your career, make sure that you negotiate a good starting salary, and start investing in the stock market, real estate, other things.
But listen, I try and remember my 20s as well. It's not like any of us have a lot of extra money lying around for something like investing, when that trip to Mexico sounds so much more fun. So what do you do when you don't have a lot of extra cash for investing?
I know what you're talking about, because when I was in my 20s, I had friends who said, you know what, I'm not going to invest. I'm going to wait till I have more money. I'm going to wait until I know more about the stock market. But to be honest, they missed out. They missed out. Because if you start investing, let's say $100 every month when you're 25 years old in a tax-deferred account, say you get a 5% or 6%, let's do 6% rate of return, you're going to get about $200,000 by the time you're 65. But if you wait 10 years until you're more established, or whatever that means, and you were starting to invest at 35, then you may have half that amount. Wow. So it makes a big difference. So your 20s is a fantastic time to invest, because you can ride out any market fluctuations. If you make mistakes, you can learn from them. And there are a lot of options out there, robo-advisors, online discount brokerages, ways that you can invest
goes a long way.
A little bit.
Okay.
Absolutely. All right, so who here is in their 30s? A lot more people in their 30s. All right, so we're moving on to our 30s. Okay, so there are a lot of competing priorities during this time. So how should we be saving our money?
How should we be saving okay. I mean, that is such a personal question. I don't know you. I don't know where you live, how much money you make, or what your priorities are. And it's okay to have different seasons in your life where you spend more or less on the things that are important to you. BMWs.
It was a bad investment.
Your wedding, parenthood, home ownership, these kinds of things that are important. I would just offer you 3 tips. The first one is give your money a job. So whatever money you make, give it all a job. Let's say that you're gonna save 20% of your take-home pay. Break that down even further. So 15% is gonna go to your retirement, say 5% is gonna go to emergency fund, and then shift that around if you want. The next thing is actually play with numbers. Know your numbers. Sometimes we say, we're gonna save, or we're like, well, how much, why? Like, what's your strategy? So for example, the average age of a first-time mother in Canada is 29. And so if you are planning to have a child, what are you going to get with maternity benefits? How much are you going to make on parental leave? And can you save for that income gap? And then finally, supersize your saving options. For example, are you talking to your employer about their retirement plan? Are you using your RSP, your TFSA, which are tax-deferred accounts, to invest money? And finally, if you're saving for your kids' education, are you missing out on the free cash that the government gives you when you open an RESP, where you get that 20% top-up up to $500 per child per year?
All right.
Okay, so let's get to the decade that all of us are currently enjoying, which are 40s. So what should we be considering right now?
So I am in my fabulous 40s, and it is my I don't give a bleep era of I know who I am, I know what's important to me and what I value and what I spend my money on. And right now for me, that's myself, and my family. And so also I know that retirement is around the corner and in some 2 short decades, hopefully, and I want to maximize my retirement savings. Bless you. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about was people say, how much money should I be saving for my retirement in my 40s? There's a US study that said if you started saving for retirement when in your mid-30s, you would have to put away 15% of your net annual income for retirement to be able to retire by 65. But if you wait till your 40s and you start in your mid-40s, you need to be putting away 27%.
A lot more.
Wow.
That's a lot more. And you have so many competing priorities and things are expensive out there. It's tough. And so I don't want...
Plus you might have kids who have expenses at that point in time, right?
It's an expensive time. So I know that feels like a punch in the gut to think, but I don't want anyone to get discouraged. Any small victory is still a victory. And so just prioritize and start. I mean, hopefully in your 40s, these are your peak earning years. And so just pay attention to inflation creep, so lifestyle inflation. So the more you make, often the more you spend. So pay attention to that. As well, in your 40s, you have fabulous wisdom and all of these skills that you've acquired. Can you monetize that? Can you start a side hustle? Can you start an online course where you sell your knowledge for some passive income? There are a lot of things to pay attention to. And finally, the average age of divorce is 48. So pay attention to some planning, update your will to make sure if you have a new blended family.
Interesting.
It's expensive.
Okay,
to think about.
So let's say you are in your 50s, and so it looks like retirement feels even a little closer, and maybe those kids are heading off to university or post-secondary. What are our financial concerns in our 50s?
Often when you feel worried, it's because you're not sure. And so if you're scared of the dark, turn the lights on. Understand how much money is coming in, how much you have in assets, how much you have in debts, how much money you may need in retirement. So my husband and I, we did our financial planning. We redid our financial plan last week, and we realized that if I need enough money to live until I'm 90, because the Leongs are long-lived, and we need to make some adjustments. And one of those adjustments is working longer.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but that's okay. You do the math for your own life, but ask the questions. If you're going to use an online retirement calculator, if you're going to talk to an advisor, ask them the questions. I want to give money to my kids to help them buy a home. How does this affect my retirement? I take care of my elderly parents. How does that affect my retirement?
Yeah, great questions. All right, so last question, finally. If you are 65 and nearing retirement or retired, what's important to know?
So congratulations, that's amazing. What a great milestone to be in. People often say, I speak to retirees who are like, I've never been busier.
Yeah.
But that being said, you may not make as much money as you did. So to be very mindful of your income sources. So the Canada Pension Plan, the Old Age Security. If you delay CPP, your monthly payments go up. And understand, have a strategy for withdrawing your nest egg. So you're not going to be running out of money. Make sure that you revisit your investment portfolio to make sure that you're properly diversified so that you are protecting your capital. And work on, I know this is, I don't know how realistic this is sometimes, but work on staying debt-free or becoming debt-free. And finally, sometimes we get overwhelmed by the weight of having all this money to deal with, but staying on top of it, staying on top of your government changes and rules, taxes, benefits, and scams. So staying on top of the latest scams, because Canadians lost more than $500 million to fraud and cybercrime last year.
Wow.
And a lot of that is largely targeting seniors.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you are a senior, my credit card was compromised last month, and so it can happen to anyone, no shame. But pay attention. If there's someone at your door, there's someone on the phone, someone messaging you, and there's a link in it, just look at it and ask, could this be a scam?
Yeah, exactly.
Great question.
Melissa, great info and so timely. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey there, what did you think? Drop your comments below and join the conversation. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can find more on everything from food and fashion to pop culture and current events. See you soon.